You're listening to Talk Commerce. Subscribe and download at talk-commerce.com.
Welcome to this episode of Talk Commerce. Today I have Ravi Mittal. He is the CEO and founder of Rave Digital and owner of Aheadworks. Ravi, go ahead, do an introduction for yourself. Tell us your day-to-day role and one of your passions.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, I'm CEO. I founded Rave Digital, which is a full service e-commerce agency in 2008. After I left the corporate world, I used to work for IBM. So I'm coming from a technical background, and I always wanted to have my own company. So we started a dev shop, purely a software factory. We pivoted to complete e-commerce agency around 10 years ago. And since then, we have been focusing mainly on Magento as a practice. We've been running that company. We acquired Aheadworks in 2019, which is one of the most reputable extension building companies. And then since then, I've been operating and running Aheadworks as well. We have 57 extensions. We won 4 awards, and we leverage those extensions for our deliveries in our e-commerce services business. Yeah.
That's awesome. So before we get started, and we're going to talk about some of your ideas about the Magento community and some ideas about how extensions are sold and how they're licensed. You have volunteered to be part of the Free Joke Project, so I'm just going to tell you a joke, and then you just give me a rating 1 through 5.
Yeah, sure.
So here we go. Not to brag, but I just got hired as a fitness model. They used me as the before picture.
The rating for that is 1. 1 being the highest. No, I was messing with it. Rating for 1 being the highest, because that's the number one joke, today, this week. I know the rating, the 5 is the highest. You get a 5 all the time.
All right. Thank you. All right. So in our green room, we were talking a little bit about the Magento community and how Adobe has changed things. Tell us a little bit about where you'd like to see, and we're going to talk specifically about the marketplace and extensions, but give us some background of what led you. First, tell us a little bit about why there's a problem with the Magento extension system.
Yes. So brief background about this thing. We all know we love Magento is heavily flexible. It's commercial open source. So there is a premium model there. And these extensions were sold as a one-time extension. But what happened is that on an average, a brand or a merchant will use an extension for around 7 years. With every version or every security patch update, we need to update our extensions to make sure that they're compliant with the new versions of it. So there is a lot of overhead involved. So when you are a 57 extension company, then there are a bunch of engineers, a couple of weeks trying to do that. And there were some years where there were like 10 version upgrades that were released. So supporting those for 7 years comes at a cost. So we, as a community, all of us introduce subscription that, hey, you can get the initial license. You can use it for life if you do a new version of it, right? But if you need the support and if you need the new version of it, 2 years down the line, 1 year down the line, whatever, as and when they come, then you need to have a subscription. So we introduced subscription, and that is when it started making a little bit of financial sense to run and operate a for-profit organization which builds extensions. Yeah. I lost the audio, Brent.
Sorry about that. Okay, so we talked a little bit about how Shopify does their extensions, how BigCommerce now is doing their extensions. Tell us how Magento at the moment, or how Adobe Commerce is selling their extensions.
Yes. So right now, let's take one example. So there's a difference between managed e-commerce and unmanaged e-commerce, right? So the rest of them are like Shopify, BigCommerce are managed e-commerce platforms. They are not open source. When you buy extension, you get the source code, you have access to it, you can use it as in how you wish it, versus an app in Shopify space is a SaaS application. Even if it's a small app, reward points or anything to enable B2B, any of those, blog or content building, or whatever, they are small apps and they are running and operating in a SaaS format. So that means there can be 1,000 merchants on the same SaaS application using that app. The app building partner cannot customize it for one tenant, right? So there is that key difference. That is, in terms of licensing, because you are not open source and because you don't have source code, because you don't have keys to the kingdom, they can very easily come up with easier licensing model, $20 a month or $200 a year, right? Kind of licensing model. Versus in Magento space, We right now have an initial licensing cost, let's say $200 or $300 for open source. But then there is another licensing cost for Adobe Commerce, and some of the vendors have third tier of licensing cost for Adobe Commerce Cloud, right? So if an extension is let's say $300, which your blog is like $280 for open source, it will be double the price for commerce with us, right? And some of them, they charge 2.5 times that price. That's the initial license cost. After that 30 days, you have to go for a subscription, which is a monthly or yearly that you can choose. And generally that maintenance and having access to the new version of the product comes at 50% of the initial licensing cost, right? So if your open source is $100 license, then the commerce would be $200, and Commerce Cloud, some of the vendors will charge $250. 50% of that, roughly, give or take, right, will be per year maintenance and get access to the new version of product costs. So around $50 for open source, $100 for commerce. That's how it works. It's complicated. It's very complicated. To me, it should be simple. X dollar per year, Y dollar per month. That's it. That's how it should be.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing that you had brought up earlier was around how they're being sold, and tell us about how right now, how everybody has to pay for extensions in their store.
Yeah.
Talk about how they have to go to every vendor and try to pay for that.
So most of these extension building companies, by the way, like Aheadworks, which is our company, they buy on aheadworks.com, they add to cart, they check out just the way as if you're buying a physical product from Amazon. To me, that whole extension buying thing should be is a B2B. So extensions are owned by a company, not by a person. So if Brent bought it for his company, it's not owned by Brent because Brent can move on. It is owned by the brand, by the customer. So we need to make sure buying experience like that. And once the team is there onboarded, right, it should be installed that extension. That's as simple as that. There should not be any add to cart and checkout. The buying experience, to me, we need to rethink about it, and we need to just install extensions. There can be a free trial period, so you can try it for 7 days or 30 days or whatever the vendor wants to, or there's no trial. And then the easiest thing would be $20 a month. That would be the easiest. And then you just install it. If you don't need it, you can uninstall it. You can remove it from your store. And right now, when we do an extension audit, to my surprise, we find at least 10 to 15% of the extensions that are there enabled and active are not used by the brand. So we need to, if we can do this install and install easy, it's just easier for buying experience. It keeps the Magento instance clean as well.
Yeah, I think one thing that you mentioned, and more like, I think the problem with people adding too many apps or extensions is probably the same across all platforms. But one thing that you had talked about was how extensions are being purchased and having to go to every single vendor. So in your case, if you did have a client with 70 different extensions, and let's just say they are 70 different vendors, they're responsible for going to pay that renewal every year to 70 different people, right?
Yes. So on an average, we are talking about small bills. We are talking about small merchant doing few $1 million in online commerce per year. So few $1 million in GMV. They on an average have 70 extensions from on an average 6 to 7 different providers, right? Maybe 50 of them are, let's say, paid ones. So there needs to be 50 subscriptions, right? Now, let's say if they have 10 of those from Aheadworks, they are not all on the same billing cycle or schedule. One may be bought by Brent, another may be bought by Nicole, another may be bought by Ravi. So at different schedule and different timelines, different credit cards, different complete timelines, So it is important for us to unify that, to make it simple, because how is it possible? If you think about it, how is it even possible for a brand, when we are already subscription fatigue around us, we are asking for their one online store to keep up with 50 subscriptions? It's impossible. It's not done, And I'm the culprit I'm one of the biggest culprit, because we do subscriptions as well. So we need to make it easy on that. We first need to make licensing model very easy. The second thing is we need to make this whole billing part of it very easy.
Yeah, and currently it is centralized on the Adobe marketplace. So everybody can go there and they can purchase something and they're vetted by Adobe. But after it leaves there, there's no centralization anymore, right? So I think one thing you're advocating for is Adobe to step in to centralize that entire buying process and renewal process. Is that correct?
Yes. No. So quick fact about that. So on Aheadworks, and that applies to almost all vendors as well. On aheadworks.com, so 90% of our sales come from our own website. Only 10% to 15%, let's say, goes through a Magento marketplace, right? Where all extension vendors are publishing their extensions. Not all of them right now find financial sense in keeping up their extensions published on March. So some vendor may have 50 of them, will only publish their top 25. Why? Because of the work involved in the approval process and all that. MFTP, what is Magento Functional Testing Framework, that those scripts needs to be updated, they need to be approved, and it's a work, right? So definitely need to make that easier. But most importantly, it doesn't make financial sense out of it. If they're getting few $1,000s a month from the marketplace, why would they go through that pain, right? So yes, Adobe Marketplace is a central place where all the extension providers are publishing most of their extensions or half their extensions. 90% of the sale is coming from their own websites. Only 10% to 15%, as I said, is coming from marketplace.
So
there's a reason for it. There's a reason.
Help me understand your ask then. What are you advocating for? Tell us exactly what you would like to see in terms of how the community changes in selling extensions and managing extensions and licensing extensions.
Yep. It's very simple to me. First of all, if you don't want a subscription, so at Aheadworks, there are some changes that we can make as Aheadworks, because we are just only one player in the market. But what about those 6? We cannot unify for, one into one. So only Adobe can do certain changes. So first thing is that we need to really think about it. So it's not the $300, you cannot get a lifetime license. It doesn't make financial sense at all. But what we can do is we can do a long-term, like 5-year license, which is what we are launching next week, and 5-year license at a 30% discount price. So, and it's not a subscription. So, after 5 years, things change, right? So for companies that do not want to deal with subscriptions, especially bigger brands, they can have that option, right? The second thing we are doing starting next week is we are unifying our licensing cost. So it will be $300 in my example, $300 per year for all of them, for all editions of Magento, for whether you're on Adobe Commerce, Adobe Commerce Cloud, or Magento Open Source. So for all of those, so we are literally slicing our licensing cost by 50% for Adobe Commerce vendors. So we are simplifying the licensing model, and we can definitely introduce one bill, but it won't help the community. So the second change that we are suggesting is that Adobe Marketplace, Magento Marketplace, introduces that one bill. So all of those 7 or 6 vendors in my example, on an average, their invoices would be in one invoices from, and it's not that difficult change. It's a billing cycle change that can be introduced by, there will be a lot of positive impacts of it if that change is done by Marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it would increase the bottom line for Adobe. It would give them some more revenue. But do you think, do you think that they care enough right now to get that done? And what is that lift?
They do
for them.
I think they do. My question would also be that did somebody ask them to do this? Right? So this is also like the responsibility lies on the shoulders of the whole community, and they are supporting all the Meet Magento events. Right? They are open to conversations. Definitely, the bigger the company you are, the change is a slow change. But I'm pretty hopeful that if we, they would be open to that. It makes only sense. I mean, to me, it's like a no-brainer, like Amazon Prime, right? So why would you not do it? And that's not a huge of a change. We should start focusing as a community. Let me first crunch some numbers. So let's say if I was Adobe executive, right? How does it? So this is my appeal if Adobe is listening to Adobe, like how does it make financial sense? So I'll give you a rough number. And this is my rough estimate, right? Because based on my revenue, and I know that there are 7 different extension vendors, roughly this is a $10 million market, $10 million per year market. So right now, let's say even at, for ease of calculation, I will say, let's say 10% of this revenue is coming in going to marketplace. Adobe charges right now 15% on that, right? So on a 1 million, they generate a revenue of $150,000, right? On that. That's nothing. That's really nothing. Now let's think about it like this. Let's say if we do one bill, and that means we made it super easy for brands to do business with Magento community or Magento platform, right? So that reduces the shrinking. Back in the day, there were double the number of extensions or double the number of instances on Magento as compared to Shopify. Now things have reversed. We have 4,000 extensions published on Marketplace and 8,000 Shopify apps. Now, first thing is we acknowledge that, yes, the market share is, we are losing the market share to Shopify big time, right? The second thing is we need to understand, if we don't acknowledge it, how can we fix it, right? So the Magento market is shrinking. I'm seeing it firsthand, right? So if we introduce this change, the shrinking will stop and probably will grow. The brands would start buying extensions from the marketplace rather than directly going to adworks.com or msc.com or MageWorks or Mage Plaza. Yeah. So let's say if we reverse that trend, if they introducing this thing reverse, then 90% of the sales should go from marketplace, right? That's how it should be. So now, if they take 10% of that, not 15%, let's say 15%, I'm just trying to do the math easy, right? So 10% of that is $900,000, right? On top of it, to stir the community, and that is insignificant money. The thing is that if Magento shrinks in general, Adobe Commerce will shrink too. We are hand in hand. We are joined by the hip, you know. So it's not good for commerce as a practice in general. And extension will never go away even if they introduce App Builder. It will not go away. That's going to be there. You know, we need to acknowledge that and understand that. So if that's going to be there, and if we grow that, then, you know, it will be good for both commerce and open source. It is not open source related initiative. Commerce will never be extension free. It is not happening in the next 5 years. That's all I'm saying. So they should also do like up to a certain revenue level from extension vendor, charge 0% to the vendor. Now, brand has a reason to buy it from marketplace because it's one bill, ease of doing business. And then extension building vendor have another incentive to publish and keep up with all of their extensions. Most of them are doing less than $500,000. So if you make it 0% fee for up to $500,000, they will publish all of their extension on market. They will keep up there. They will not shy away from trying to sell in different ways or shapes or form on their own website because now there is no reason to. They're not sharing 15%. So that would just flourish the community. Everybody would have a buy-in if we implement those changes. If Magento, Adobe implements this.
Talk a little bit about the licensing costs between enterprise and open source and commerce. That was one of my big pet peeves back in the day was,
yeah,
it's exactly the same code base and all you're doing is charging a premium because the client is paying a license.
Agreed. And the extension building companies have tried to justify it because there's Magento open source that is free, and then there's Adobe Commerce Cloud. So premium kind of model, right? So there is different licensing costs for different editions of Magento. And many of the companies, by the way, do that, right? But to me, I think the licensing should be based on usage rather than, you know, edition, right? And it would be good for extension building companies to start thinking that way as well. Right? If I am having a drag and drop content builder, we have Buildify, drag and drop content builder. If you are writing and using my app and writing 10 pages of content, right, with it, I would charge you less. But if you're doing 1,000 pages with me, then I'll charge more. It's usage based, right? It has nothing to do with the addition of the product. In very few cases, it may, right? And so we need to just change our mindset as a community for that. But in Adobe Commerce versus open source, there is many reasons for you to ask for a license. There's B2B, there's features functionality, there's support part of it, there is hosting part of it, there is other technical service like Fastly is included, that part of it. So all of that bundled together is okay. It comes at a pay. VR extension is not that. Almost all extension of one code. I'm charging Adobe Commerce more just because I think that they can pay more.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so we have about 5 minutes left. Let's talk really quickly about Meet Magento Florida, why people need to go there.
Meet Magento Florida started this conference because I was missing Magento Imagine back in the day. 2019 was the last one. Happened in Encore. So, and I hear it from everyone that, oh, we missed this. So right from the beginning, we wanted to bring that vibe, that feeling, that the size of a full conference back. We wanted to give Magento Imagine a new home. So that's why we started Meet Magento Florida with that intent.
Tell us about your keynote this year.
The keynote is Chirag Nichar. He's a very accomplished keynote speaker. He works at Google. And he will talk about how landscape for e-commerce space and digital commerce trends are moving. So it will be a good keynote. This time our keynote will be a little longer. It will be 45 minutes. We will also have in the conference a roadmap session that would be a separate invite only, who are the leaders, and in the Magento community, they would come from both sides, from Adobe side, from the Magento open source side, and association members will be there. And we will talk about things like this. So this will be one of the items on the agenda, but then we are preparing a very structured agenda for that meeting. And we would have that conversation at Meet Magento Florida as well. It is a full 2-day conference. And we have got good brands coming. We got Helen of Troy, Henry Schein, all of those, Chewy is coming, Outbound Trading, Hanes brand, so we've got good brands coming. Nestle is coming and doing a case study. I'm looking forward to that one with Hybris. So yeah, it will be a good conference. We have a separate case study track because there's nothing better to learn from people's experience. And if brand can tell their own stories, then other brands can learn from it. So
yeah, I think the unique thing that you've been able to do is get a lot of merchants at the event. It's been very encouraging to see the amount of merchants that attend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ravi, before we leave, I give everybody a chance to do a shameless plug. What would you like to plug today?
So one of the biggest thing is definitely we want to make changes in the community, and God willing, we are at a place where we are able to influence the change in the community. We want to do that, but we are business for profit. And one of our biggest wires is that we leverage 57 extensions and around 11 SaaS applications in our delivery. So, but the biggest problem is that, whenever you need a customization or a change, and when you're delivering services as an agency, then you go back and forth with that extension building company because that's an external component to it, right? With us, we leverage our extensions and our SaaS application for delivery. So time to market is faster. We are efficient, very, very efficient in terms of time to market, and also the cost of delivery is associated with it as well. So that's biggest wires. We have an equally strong full service e-commerce agency, and we are a product company as well. So both those arms work together to benefit the brands. Yeah.
And where's the best place for people to get in touch with you?
I'm on LinkedIn. That's the best place. That's the only social media that I do, right now. So I'm on LinkedIn, but, feel free to reach out to me through our website. Anywhere, I don't mind giving. I'm a very easy person to give my cell phone number as well. So yeah, once you reach out to me, we'll probably just be talking on the phone casually all the time. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I'll make sure I get those on the show notes. And I look forward to Meet Magento Florida. It is coming up. This episode will come out next Monday. Mm-hmm. So tell us the dates of Meet Magento Florida.
Meet Magento Florida is February 5th and 6th. It happens in Hard Rock, Florida, which is the guitar building. It's an awesome venue, awesome location. And we have day 1, lots of ancillary events going on. Day 2, we have a closing party and after party after that. And then during the day, there will be a lot of learning, 2 workshops. one by Mark Schuss. It will be a technical workshop, and the B2B workshop, which is a business workshop, day one would be by Nicole Donnelly. So I'm looking forward to that. We are growing this. Last year we were 2 tracks. This year we are 3 tracks. We will have more sponsors on the floor to talk to and network with as well. So we are introducing new components in the conference, and we are growing year over year in all dimensions by 15%. So this year we'll do the same.
That's awesome. Ravi Mittal, the CEO of Rave Digital, founder, CEO of Rave Digital, and owner of Aheadworks. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. Hi, Brent. Always.
Meet Magento down in Florida. E-commerce folks come to score it. Adobe Commerce, partners too. Developers, we're golden brew. GP Magento, let's connect. Share ideas and reflect. From merchants to tech, we're all here. Building the future, cheer to cheer. Tap your feet to the rhythm, let's ignite. Networking of the stars, shine bright. Workshops and talks, knowledge flowing free. With every session, more clarity we see. In the heart of Florida, where ideas take flight. Minds merge together like day and night. Feel the energy, feel the beat. Magento family, where hearts meet.
Talk Commerce is a production of Content Basis LLC. For more creative content, go to contentbasis.io.